Well, good afternoon, everybody. And good afternoon to those who are watching the live feed on Facebook and YouTube. My name is Rachel Mitchell. I'm the Maricopa County Attorney. And I want to start by kind of laying out how the press conference today is going to go. I'm going to make an announcement about a recent case, and then I'm going to bring up a special guest to talk about a situation that I think a lot of people are not aware of but need to be. She will then take questions on her presentation, and then when she's completed her questions and answers, I will answer any questions that you have on cases related to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Okay? So let me start off with an announcement. We have charged 3 more people for a total of 6 who we believe are part of the South American theft group. Just to let you know, this group is a multinational crime syndicate that operates out of Chile, as well as several other countries. They are using an immigration loophole to get here, and let me explain what I mean by that. Because Chile and the US are friendly nations, you need only an inexpensive tourist visa to travel between the 2 countries. So our understanding is, and let me preface this with, people are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But our understanding about this group is that largely they fly into Los Angeles, and once there, they are able to obtain fake IDs and fan out across the United States. And of course, once they have a fake ID in hand, they can move about fairly undetected. Using a combination of high-tech and low-tech tools, they case targeted homes and break in, often while the families are out to supper or dinner. They tend to take high-value objects that are hard to trace, like cash and jewelry. So last month, we announced charges against 3 members of this group that had been apprehended by the Phoenix Police Department. These additional 3, 2 adults and 1 juvenile, were apprehended thanks to the hard work of the Scottsdale Police Department. They were picked up in that city. And so those defendants will be up on the screen. First, we have Gracia Romandusky Gayete Castillo, who is now charged with conspiracy to commit burglary in the 2nd degree. That's a class 3 felony. Sebastian Jesus Paraguez Soto, he is charged with conspiracy to commit burglary in the 2nd degree, as class 3 felony, and possession of burglary tools, it's class 6 felony. And a juvenile whose name I will not give, who is charged with conspiracy to commit burglary in the 2nd degree, that's a class 3 felony, possession of burglary tools, a class 6 felony, and false reporting to law enforcement, that's a class 1 misdemeanor. Again, charges are not evidence, and people are presumed innocent until proven guilty in court. Scottsdale Police report that since November of 2023, they have seen more than 100 of these types of burglaries, which leads me to say this. I've talked about situations where people involved in organized retail crime have come into our county to commit crimes, and we have learned that they are shocked that bail is set and that they are going to be held accountable here. These people will be held accountable here as well. We don't want them to come into our county. We would prefer that they bypass us entirely, but they should know that they will be held accountable, and if they come here and they commit crimes, they need to plan to stay. The adults in this case are being held on $200,000 cash-only bonds, which means that they have to post 100% of that value in order to get out of jail. So my office is going to stay on top of these types of crimes to discourage people from coming here and committing more of them. Now, let me transition here. For well over about a couple of months now, we've been planning to have this individual come in and talk about a situation that a lot of people are not aware of. And it's an interesting juxtaposition, because I started off by talking about people who are coming who are not welcome here. And this is a group of people who were left behind in their own country after they partnered with the United States. And these are prosecutors who were once living in a very different Afghanistan than currently exists. They were tasked with prosecuting members of the Taliban. They were tasked with making sure that the rights of women were recognized and upheld. These prosecutors, who are not unlike the prosecutors in my office, stood shoulder to shoulder with us until the government fell and the Taliban regained control during the summer of 2021. They were not, for the most part, evacuated. So since then, anyone who was working on behalf of democracy or women's rights in Afghanistan now has to live in fear for their lives. Again, among those are lawyers, prosecutors in particular, who stood for justice. Estimates are that at least 1,500 of these attorneys remain in the country. Many, if not most, frankly, if not all, live in hiding. Many have been killed already. So I have been working with the Association of Prosecuting Attorneys, the APA, on a project called Prosecutors for Prosecutors. And the purpose of that is to raise money that will enable us to get these prosecutors and their family members safely out of Afghanistan. So I'm proud to say that through a fundraising campaign that we had here at Maricopa County Attorney's Office, we raised enough money to rescue a prosecutor and his family. But obviously there's a great more to do. So I'd like you to hear from somebody who experienced this herself. So I'd like you to meet Najia Mahmoudi. And if you can come up here. Najia worked for the Attorney General of Afghanistan. That is a nationwide organization, as Chief of Litigation for Violence Against Women. She was on one of the very last planes to leave, and I'm very grateful. She now lives in another state, and she is a student again. She's pursuing a master's degree that will help her to continue the career she wants to continue. So welcome, and I'm going to step out of your way.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. This is Najia Mahmoudi, and I was a former chief prosecutor for the elimination of violence against women. And I had the opportunity to escape Taliban prosecution in 2021. And right now I'm in the US with my family. But I want to be the voice for my colleagues who remain in Afghanistan or in neighboring countries, who are facing an urgent and grave situation that demands our immediate attention and action. The focus of our gathering today is critical condition of courageous Afghan prosecutors who have dedicated their careers and lives to prosecuting serious crimes. Terrorism, the Taliban atrocities, drug trafficking, violence against women, and rampant corruption in Afghanistan. These brave men and women have shown extraordinary commitment and valor, working tirelessly alongside the United States and other international partners to uphold justice and the rule of law. Their efforts over the past 2 decades have not only been about bringing perpetrators to justice, but also about fostering a safer, more peaceful Afghanistan. They have stood as a lighthouse of hope and pillars of strength in the face of chaos, adversity, impunity, and injustice, often at great personal risk and sacrifice. Despite the myriad challenges and changes they faced, these prosecutors played an important role in the fight against terrorism and crimes. They worked closely with international security forces to investigate and prosecute terrorism cases, all while ensuring fairness and upholding human rights, a statement to their exceptional dedication to justice and fairness. However, with the Taliban return and resurgence in power in 2021, the hard-won progress and achievements of these prosecutors have been tragically reversed. The justice system has been dismantled, and the Taliban have used legal mechanisms as instruments of suppression. The very individual who once led the charge for justice now face severe threats to their life and their livelihoods. The return of the Taliban, the release of all convicted criminals from jails, and the free hand of terrorist groups and organized crimes present a real risk to safety and security of all Afghan prosecutors who committed their lives and careers for rule of law, order, and justice. Because of the threats, hundreds have been forced to flee, seeking asylum. Our information indicates that 35 prosecutors has been killed and more are missing, and our hundreds of prosecutors displaced or fled the country, and thousands more are hiding inside in Afghanistan. Those fled the country and find themselves in limbo, facing the threat of deportation and living in dire condition. The situation is specifically dire for those who remain in Afghanistan, living in constant fear of targeted killings and abduction. Women and Hazara prosecutors, in particular, face compounding threats due to their gender and ethnicity. This is a stark reminder of intersectional challenge and heightened risk faced by those who stand in front of lines of justice and rule of law. The international and our collective response to this crisis has been varied, but the truth is more needs to be done. Initiatives like Prosecutor for Prosecutor campaign from Association of Prosecuting Attorneys are a step in the right direction, aiming to provide immediate help for relocation for these legal professionals and their families. However, the scale of the crisis requires a broader, more robust international effort. The work of this Afghan prosecutor is a testament of dedication to justice, fairness, and the rule of law. They have fought against formidable odds to ensure justice and fight crimes and make a society safe for everyone. Now, as they find themselves in peril, it falls upon to extend our support and ensure their safety. I urge to stand with us in supporting this courageous individual. Let us show the world that seeking justice is not a crime, but a noble cause worthy of protection and respect. Together we can make a difference in their lives of those who have sacrificed so much for cause of justice and human rights. We demand urgent attention to the plight of Afghan prosecutors. The U.S. should consider the Afghan prosecutors vulnerable and grant them SIV, P1, and P2 visas. They need immediate and urgent relocation. We urge you to contribute to our campaign by volunteering and donating and engaging your representatives so we could help the Afghan prosecutors to get our help. Thank you for your commitment and for joining us in this endeavor. And if you have any questions, I would be willing to answer.
Hello, I'm a reporter with 12 News. My name's Gabriella. Would you mind just reflecting on your journey to the United States and what it's been like since you've been here?
Yes, thank you so much for your wonderful question. Yeah, my journey was like, I just evacuated by the U.S. Army in 2021 since U.S. Army evacuated 122,000 people from Afghanistan. So I was among those we took the last plans from Afghanistan. So it was a hard journey for me and my family, but overall we just got to a safe country and then we are happy to be here. But for my colleagues who are still in Afghanistan and those who are in neighboring countries, they are living in a very dire situation, which would be hard for them to survive. They are just living in a way that they are facing prosecution from the Taliban, and also they are living in a severe poverty, and they are starving from hunger too. So right now, my journey here started, and since I arrived to US, I just started helping and be the voice for those who remain left in Afghanistan and those who just work for the U.S. mission, as we were the ones who were implementing the law that was implemented during the U.S. in Afghanistan, and we were at high risk in Afghanistan. Not us; it was all the prosecutors, and so it was my duty, and still it's my duty to be their voice and to advocate for them. Yeah, thank you.
One question. Could you tell me when your appearance was scheduled for today?
It was 1:50.
Oh, no. She can answer. It was handled. No. Could you answer, please?
Yes, it was 1:50.
It was Tuesday?
No, Wednesday.
Wednesday? Today?
Yes, today.
Okay. So do you think that your appearance here has anything to do with the fact that President Biden is in Maricopa County?
With respect to your question, so I would not answer that question because I'm a lawyer and I'm not a politician to talk about those things. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you. I appreciate your question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You know, one of the things, one of the things that we talked about was part of what you were there to make sure uphold were, was it 22 rights
Yes.
for women, or that could are crimes against women, I guess would be
Yes. It was 22 acts that was recognized as a crime against women. Yeah.
And when was that recognized?
It was this law was enacted by the President order in 2029, and from 2009. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, 2009, and it enacted by the President order. It didn't proceed with the Parliament, but because of those conflicts that they was in the country, that this law was giving more rights to the woman, and so after that, this law was implementing in all the offices in the country, and Attorney General Office of Afghanistan is one of the legal bodies that established a deputy for this elimination of violence against women, and we were working under this deputy for the cases, domestic violence cases, specifically to implement this law, which we were processing 3,000 to 4,000 cases every year. Yes.
Can you just give us 2 or 3 examples of what became a crime against women?
Yes. So 22 acts was enacted, like criminalized as a crime against women, which was murder, rape, sexual assault, like forcing marriage, early marriage, bad, which was a tradition in Afghanistan, which they just give women as to resettle a dispute between families or their tribes. So this act was criminalized by this law, and also beating was one of them, which was criminalized by this law. Poisoning or putting acids, or even having more than one wife was criminalized by this law. That this law was giving the right for the first wife that the husband shouldn't get married for the second time until they get a permission from the first wife. So it was giving a lot of rights for the women, that even we had attorney offices in the rural areas of Afghanistan that women could easily access to this, to the justice, to the attorney offices, and then they could come and complain about their cases or about their perpetrators. And also the good part was that all the prosecutors for the elimination of violence against women was women, that women was feeling comfortable to be interviewed or to talk about what they were suffering or what they were going that was going on. So it was good that all the women was working for all the domestic violence cases, and they had this opportunity there. But right now, they even do not have right to go to this school. So, but they just abolished the Attorney General Office of Afghanistan. There's no Attorney General Office in Afghanistan, and they are not letting women to even breathe to seek justice is just a faraway things. Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank you.
take it. And thank you for sharing your story as well, your personal story. So we are going to have a press release issued later today that's going to have information about this program, Prosecutors for Prosecutors. And if you want immediate information, you can go to the Association of Prosecuting Attorneys website, APA, and then you'll see a link there to Prosecutors for Prosecutors campaign. All right, so with that, I will take your questions regarding issues related to my office.
Hello, Attorney Mitchell. So talking about the South American Crime Group, Scottsdale Police had a town hall a while back and talked about kind of what you were saying with the immigration law, how they're getting over here.
Mhm.
Are you able to say how you think anything can be changed to tighten this to prevent people from coming over and committing crimes?
You know, I'm not an expert in federal immigration law, but what I will say is this, that any law that's allowing people to come in and immediately switch identities and just go unchecked throughout our country committing crimes needs to be re-examined and tightened up, because from what I'm hearing, it's not just certainly in Arizona or Maricopa County. I mean, it's across the country where bands of individuals like this are coming and committing mass numbers of burglaries. And so I would certainly urge the federal government to look at how easily it is for these people to come over and do that.
And Scottsdale Police also mentioned that in the past years, people who've been convicted of these or who were at least charged never posted bail. Do you find that, at least with these 6 so far, have any of them posted bail? And do you think because it's cash bail they're not making bail, or what is keeping them from making bail if that's the case? That makes sense.
I would be speculating about what is keeping them. Obviously, it is an appropriate amount based on the fact that they have no ties to this community and solely came here to commit felonies. But my understanding is all 5 of them, of the adults, are still in custody because of that bail.
Are there any challenges specifically with prosecuting these cases, seeing them if they're from a different country?
I think the biggest challenge right now is to make sure that we, can link up to each individual. And I'm not saying these 5 are responsible for any others or all of them, but making sure that we can link up other burglaries to the individuals who committed them.
One more question about a different topic. You said this morning that the office is pretty well staffed right now. How many positions have you hired in the past 2 years? Do you know?
I'd have to get that for you. I know that we are in much better shape than we were. When I took over in April of 2022, we, as you've heard me say many times, we're down about 20%, pretty much in every category. And we have been working very hard because when we're not staffed, we can't do the job that we're here to do, which is to protect the community. And so we have been not only recruiting, but reaching out to the law schools, reaching out to colleges. And we have seen an uptick in applications across the board, which has enabled us to hire more. Attrition is down. So we're in fighting shape right now, which really was not the case when I took over. Hi.
Attorney Mitchell, I have a few different topics. I wanted to start with.
You guys can call me Rachel if you want to. It's a very long title. Okay.
I wanted to start with what you started the press conference with. Are you able to say that the 6 people that have been charged all used that immigration loophole, as you called it?
That is my understanding, but I would want to check on that before I affirmatively said yes, absolutely. But that is my understanding.
Okay. And then I want to shift to the Preston Lord case. The community has seen 7 suspects go through the arraignment process. Can you walk us through what is next? Because they've heard this is just the beginning and this is a long process. So what can they expect from here?
Well, that's correct. It's not going to be a short process. So once somebody is arraigned, they are given an initial court date, and so that begins the process of prosecuting. So what happens in those situations is we have to give discovery. So all of the police reports, medical reports, interviews, we have to turn all of that over to the defense attorneys. And that kind of goes back to one of the reasons you don't want to rush that if you have multiple defendants, is you're starting to give over investigative materials to one suspect when you may have another suspect outstanding. So that's why it was important for us to get 7 at essentially one time. And then there will be a series of court hearings. I'm sure the defense will want to do interviews of the witnesses, at least the major witnesses. And we'll just go from there. It will take, I would estimate, at least a year for any of these cases to certainly go to trial, possibly to the point where they resolve.
In the last 2 weeks, we've heard a couple of different new details, one of them being about the necklace that was taken that night as well. Can you describe what role the necklace played in that night? Is it fair to say it was a catalyst, or how would you describe it?
You know, honestly, it's so hard in these cases to tell you what the motive specifically is. You know, I've heard different theories on what the motive is. I've heard that there was a looking for a motive and I'm talking generically about these different types of cases. So whether this was the actual motive or the excuse for having a motive or just something that happened along the way, I really can't say. What I can say that is certainly the obvious, that nothing justified what happened.
Have any criminal charges been referred to your office for parents or anyone else involved in this case?
We have a couple of other things that we're looking at related to the Preston Lord case. The investigation's still ongoing. As you heard me say that night at the press conference in Queen Creek, we're not done. And so if we have any additional charges to announce, you'll be among the first to know. We will announce them.
Can you give us any update on the Gilbert Goons investigation and any kind of overlap with the Preston Lord case?
Well, any overlap would be in the Gilbert cases would be similar, the same individuals involved. So we've seen, for example, one of the suspects indicted on some aggravated assaults who was also indicted in the Preston Lord case. Not that they're necessarily related by motivation, other than just they're similar. But Gilbert continues to investigate. Our investigators from this office are working with Gilbert to make sure that we cover all of the cases that need to be covered. There was an arrest made Friday, and I anticipate that will continue on at some point. And hopefully we will get a handle on what's going on, not only in the Southeast Valley, but we're seeing it across the valley. I don't know if you saw it, you probably did, that I did a video just this past week where we had concerned parents, putting videos of other fights on Twitter. And I get it, I get they're frustrated, I understand that, but the reason I did the video was to really impress upon people that they need to call the police and turn these videos over to the police, and also to remind parents who are parents of the victims of these types of acts, as well as school personnel, that there is a mandatory reporting law under Arizona law that makes it a criminal offense not to report this type of thing. It's important to get reported so that it can be dealt with quickly.
A couple of questions from my colleague on a different topic. Goodyear police are recommending to your office charges of sexual assault and unlawful imprisonment against a former employee of Palm Valley Post-Acute in Goodyear. What's the status of that case?
So I actually spoke to the prosecutor on that case earlier today. That case is still under review, but it is within my office.
Do you have any reaction to those allegations?
Well, I spent 25 years prosecuting those types of cases, so obviously I have very strong feelings about those types of offenses and many other types of offenses. So as soon as we can get through all the materials, it is actually a fairly large investigation. We will do so.
Final question for you. Any comment on the arrest of Jacob Moore for the hit and run in New River?
A comment? I know that the attorney assigned to that case worked very hard with the sheriff's office to make sure that case was put together. It's a solid case. Obviously, charges are not proof of guilt. And that individual has been indicted, I think you know that, for second-degree murder as well as failure to state an accident. And we're going to do our best to hold that person accountable for what happened.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Has a decision been made yet to charge the so-called Gilbert Goons with criminal street gang charges?
What I will say about that is that in the case that was presented to the grand jury concerning the Preston Lord investigation, it was a thorough and complete presentation, and these are the charges and allegations that we have going right now.
And then what still has to go into a decision to charge them as a street gang or anybody involved with the Preston Lord murder as getting street gang charges?
Can you ask the first part again?
Oh yeah, sorry, I got it mixed up. What still has to go into the decision for the street gang charges?
Well, I'll answer that generally. So for a group to be classified as a criminal street gang, there are certain indicators that are set forth that are looked at, such as whether somebody claims to be a member of the street gang, whether there is a set appearance or presentation, etc. But you also have to look at whether the particular crime was committed in furtherance of that, whether that individual was acting as part of the gang and doing that. So there's a lot of considerations that have to be made. But at this point, these are the charges that we have on the Preston Lord murder.
And then could any of those suspects face those charges?
At this point, the suspects are facing first-degree murder under a felony murder theory and second-degree murder in the alternative, as well as kidnapping, and then 3 of the individuals are facing aggravated robbery. And that's the totality of the charges right now.
Right. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Ballin Overstoles, KTR News. I wanted to ask about the crime tourism and specifically the source. I know you've talked about crime groups and that groups being behind this, but can you talk about what's driving people to come here from South American countries to engage in these crimes?
I would hesitate to try to get into the mind of people who are doing this. What I know, just from other things, is that when people come here, and I'll go back to the organized retail crime groups, they seem surprised that they're being held accountable here. I think they come from jurisdictions where below a certain dollar amount is not being prosecuted. They're not being held on bail. And then they come here and they are being held on bail, and they are being held accountable for amounts under $1,000. So whether they think they can get away with it, whether they think they're not going to be held accountable, I mean, I would be speculating beyond that, but those might be a couple of reasons.
Yeah, and when you were talking about that initially, you said that you hope the people who do come and commit these crimes skip over Maricopa County. I'm just curious if you could expand on what you meant by skip over.
Just don't come here to do those crimes. Obviously, I'm not wishing crime on any of our neighbor counties or any of our neighbor states, but they certainly should avoid coming here because they will be held accountable. And as I said, they're going to be put in jail, and they need to plan to stay if they come here.
Cool. Thank you.
We good?
County Attorney Mitchell, you're running for re-election as a Republican, correct?
Correct.
Do you support Donald Trump for president?
You know, I'm going to answer that as county attorney. As county attorney, what I've seen in the last few years is I have seen a completely open border that fentanyl is pouring over. I have seen Biden's own DEA tell us that in 2022 and 2023, that over half of the fentanyl seized in the United States was seized in Arizona. I've seen the impact on the economy, and that's relevant to my job because economic issues affect crime and drive crime. I don't agree with Donald Trump on everything. I'm guessing he doesn't agree with me on everything. But I do agree with the way he handled the border, and I do agree with the way he handled the economy, and therefore, yes, I will be supporting him for president.
Oh, okay. So would you seek his endorsement?
I haven't. I don't know if he would do that or not.
Did fentanyl come over the border during Trump's administration?
I'm sure I know fentanyl came over the border, but I've never seen such an open border as we have right now. And where we have now cartel members that are recruiting our young people to smuggle. You know, a few years ago, if we caught somebody with a few hundred pills of fentanyl, we viewed that person as a mid-level dealer. That's not a mid-level dealer anymore. What we're talking about that we're seeing in this office is hundreds of thousands of pills. We saw just earlier last year, 2 sisters who went across the border, I assume at the behest of the cartel, and come back into Maricopa County with 850,000 pills. In the time I've been in office, the estimate of the number of pills that contain a fatal dosage has gone from 6 out of 10, and this is by the DEA, not mine, to 7 out of 10. So you figure 70% of 850,000 pills containing a potentially lethal dosage. The deaths that are occurring from fentanyl are astronomical. We have seen an almost 6,000% increase in overdose deaths, most from fentanyl, or it's increasing toward being from fentanyl. It's unsustainable.
You seem as if you were prepared for this question.
I knew you were going to be here. Nope, I just know what I think.
Well, how does most fentanyl come over the border? Where is most of it seized?
Well, a lot of it comes over through the normal portals. Some of it doesn't. Some of it comes over through, the illegal channels, I'll call them.
How is it seized?
It's seized in a number of ways. There are some investigative techniques. I'm not going to go into some of the investigations, but it is seized in a number of ways.
So most of it's seized at the border through the portals?
A lot of it is seized here in Maricopa County. And you've seen examples of that from just recently Scottsdale Police Department seizing a large amount.
Sure.
So.
But it's good that they're seizing drugs at the border, right?
I am very happy that they're seizing any drugs that they can, and I hope they can seize a lot more because it's killing people. And it's not a joke.
No, it's not a joke. But,
you're right, it's not a joke.
But seizing drugs at the border, if there are a lot of drugs being seized at the border, that's a good thing, right?
It's a good thing. It's not enough.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right. Thank you, everybody.